I was having dinner with my mother-in-law like every Friday when my wife said on the phone she was at her house. We stared at each other in silence. My wife had just lied, and I had just discovered something that could destroy 26 years of marriage. My name's Eliseo Cabrera Morales. I'm 52 years old, and I work as a financial consultant at a medium-sized firm in Madrid. For 26 years, I built what I thought was a solid marriage with Nuria Vega Cabrera, my 49-year-old wife. She worked as a human resources manager at a technology company. We had a daughter, Alisa, 26 years old, recently graduated in law and trying to open her own law firm. The night of Friday, January 24th, 2026, began like any other Friday for the last 5 years. Since Nuria's mother, Dolores Vega Hidalgo, was widowed exactly 5 years and 3 months ago, we established a tradition. Every Friday, I had dinner with her. Nuria used to join us, but in recent months, she always had extra work, urgent meetings, or projects that couldn't wait. That night, Dolores had prepared her specialty, cocido madrileno. The aroma filled her small apartment in the Carabanchel neighborhood. It was 8:47 at night. I remember the exact time because I had just looked at my watch when my phone rang. Eliseo, I need to talk to Nuria urgently, said Rodrigo Zamora, her direct boss. His voice sounded tense. There's a problem with the payroll system that only she can solve. Is she with you? No, Rodrigo. She told me she had an important meeting at the office tonight. She's not there, I replied, feeling a small pang of strangeness. Meeting? There's no meeting scheduled today. The office is practically empty, he answered, clearly confused. Let me call her, I said and hung up. I dialed Nuria's number. She answered on the third ring. Her voice sounded relaxed, almost cheerful. Hi, darling. Is everything okay? She asked. Rodrigo is looking for you. He says there's an emergency with the payroll, I explained, keeping my voice neutral. Rodrigo? That's weird. I sent him an email this afternoon telling him I'd be working from home tonight. I'm at Mom's house helping her with some bank papers. Didn't she tell you anything, Mom? Nuria answered so naturally that I almost believed her. Almost. I looked at Dolores, who was sitting across from me at her small kitchen table. She looked back at me with wide eyes. Her face, normally warm and smiling, was pale as wax. Mom, Nuria repeated over the phone. Are you there? Dolores slowly shook her head. Her hands trembled slightly as she put her fork down on the plate. The silence that followed lasted barely 3 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. In those 3 seconds, everything I thought I knew about my life fell apart. Every certainty, every assumption, every moment of blind trust, everything turned to dust. Eliseo, can you hear me? Nuria's voice broke the silence. Yes, I hear you perfectly, I answered in a controlled voice. I'll tell Rodrigo you're at your mother's house. I hung up before she could answer. Dolores had tears in her eyes. Her right hand covered her mouth as if she wanted to hold back the words she was about to say. Eliseo, she's not here, she finally whispered. She hasn't been here in 3 weeks. The last time I saw her was last Sunday when she came for lunch, but she only stayed for an hour. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Nuria. I'll finish this quickly and call Rodrigo. Kisses. I read the message twice. Then I looked at Dolores, who was crying silently in front of her untouched plate of cocido. How many times has she asked you to lie for her? I asked with a calm I didn't feel. Dolores sobbed before answering. 3 times in the last 2 months. She'd asked me to say she was here if you asked. I always refused, Eliseo. I always told her I wouldn't lie for her, that what she was doing was wrong. Do you know where she really is? No, but it's not the first time. I've noticed things, different perfumes, strange excuses, small lies that didn't make sense. Dolores wiped her tears with a napkin. I'm her mother and I love her, but I'm not blind. Something bad is happening, Eliseo. I got up from the table. My food was cold, but I wasn't hungry anymore. A cold emptiness had settled in my stomach. Don't tell her we talked about this, Dolores asked me. Act normal if she calls or visits you. What are you going to do? She asked with a trembling voice. I'm going to find out the truth, I answered. The whole truth. I left Dolores's apartment at 9:32 at night. The cold January air hit my face as I walked to my car. My mind was already working, analyzing, calculating. 26 years of marriage, a 26-year-old daughter, a paid-off house, joint savings, shared investments. An entire life built on what now seemed to be lies. But I was a financial consultant. My job was to analyze data, find patterns, detect irregularities. If there was something to discover, I would find it. I didn't know exactly what was happening yet, but that night, having dinner with my mother-in-law while my wife lied about being with her, something broke inside me. It wasn't my heart. It was something deeper. It was my ability to trust blindly. I drove for 40 minutes without a destination. I passed by lit streets without really seeing them. My brain processed information, connecting dots I had ignored for months, maybe years. When I finally got home, it was 10:17 at night. The house was dark and empty. Nuria obviously wasn't there. I poured myself a whiskey neat and sat on the living room sofa with the lights off. Then I started to remember. July 2024. It was exactly 18 months ago. That's when it all began. Nuria came home one night saying she'd been promoted to Regional Human Resources Supervisor. More responsibilities, more money, more travel. We celebrated with champagne. I was proud of her. I'll have to stay some Fridays working late, she had said as we toasted. Meetings with teams from other cities, video conferences with the headquarters in Barcelona. I had told her it was no problem. My job was also demanding. I'd support her as always. How naive I was. I took out my phone and opened the shared calendar we had. I started counting. From July 2024 until now, January 2026, Nuria had used the extra work excuse exactly 73 Fridays. 73 nights where she was supposedly at the office in meetings, solving emergencies. 73 lies. But there was more. I searched my emails. In September 2024, Nuria traveled to Valencia for a 3-day conference on talent management. She sent me photos of the hotel, of the convention center, even of the breakfast buffet. I opened Google and searched. There was no human resources conference in Valencia on those dates. November 2024, team retreat in Malaga, a mandatory full weekend. She called me on Saturday night from her hotel room. I heard laughter in the background. My colleagues are watching a movie, she had explained. January 2025, intensive course in San Sebastian on new labor legislation. 3 days. She brought me tsakali and chocolates as a souvenir. March, May, August, October 2025. More trips, more excuses, more lies I had swallowed without question. At 2:27 in the morning, I was still awake with the half-empty whiskey bottle beside me. I had created a spreadsheet on my laptop. 18 months of data. Clear patterns emerged from the numbers. Every Friday since July 2024, working late. 2 weekends each month, business trips. Strange expenses on our joint account. Charges from expensive restaurants on Friday nights. Florists. Once, curiously, a fine lingerie store at the mall. When I asked her, she said it was a gift for a colleague who was getting married. My phone vibrated. It was Nuria. I already spoke with Rodrigo. Everything's solved. I'll be late. There's a lot of traffic from Mom's house. Don't wait up for me. Kisses. I looked at the message with a mix of anger and astonishment. She was still lying. Even now, knowing her own mother had contradicted her, she continued the charade. I replied, "Okay, drive safely." I needed her to believe I still knew nothing. I got up and walked to our bedroom. I opened Nuria's closet. Her clothes were perfectly organized as always, but now I looked with different eyes. There were dresses I didn't remember seeing her wear. New high-heeled shoes, a different perfume on her dresser, more intense, more seductive than the one she used with me. I checked her nightstand drawer. Credit card bills I didn't know about, a card she had taken out without telling me, solely in her name. The statements showed expenses at hotels, restaurants, gas stations on highways to cities she never mentioned. I photographed everything with my phone. At 3:15 in the morning, I heard Nuria's car pull into the garage. I quickly put everything back in its place, turned off the lights, and got into bed, pretending to sleep. She came in silently. She smelled of perfume and wine. She showered for 20 minutes. When she finally lay down next to me, it was 3:45. "Eliseo," she whispered, "are you asleep?" I kept my breathing slow and deep. I didn't answer. She sighed in relief, and in less than 10 minutes, she was fast asleep. I stayed awake until dawn, staring at the ceiling, processing everything I had discovered. My wife of 26 years, the mother of my daughter, the woman with whom I shared my entire life, had been systematically cheating on me for 18 months. But I was a financial analyst. My specialty was finding corporate fraud, detecting embezzlement, discovering irregularities that others overlooked. If Nuria thought she could keep fooling me, she was very mistaken. Saturday, January 25th, dawned cold and gray. Nuria woke up at 9 and acted completely normal. She made coffee, gave me a kiss on the cheek, asked how dinner with her mother had been. Good. Your mom made stew. I replied with the same feigned normalcy. She sends her regards. I'll call her later, she said while spreading jam on a piece of toast. Poor mom. She must feel lonely on Fridays. The audacity of that lie almost made me laugh, but I kept a neutral face. That afternoon, while Nuria was supposedly out shopping, I did a search on the internet. Private investigators in Madrid. I found several, but one stood out. Baltazar Núñez, a former national police detective specialized in marital infidelities and fraud. I sent him an email with all the details, photos of Nuria, her work schedule, the suspicious dates, the patterns I had identified. He replied in less than 2 hours. I can start on Monday. Fee: €10,000 plus expenses. Results guaranteed in 72 hours. I accepted immediately. Sunday passed in a strange normalcy. We had lunch together. We watched a movie. Nuria even initiated intimacy that night. I responded mechanically, but my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about the next steps, the evidence I needed, the justice that would come, because one thing was absolutely clear. This wouldn't be the end of it. On Monday, January 27th, at 8 in the morning, my phone rang while I was having coffee. It was Baltazar Núñez. Good morning, Mr. Cabrera. I already have my team in position. Your wife just left home for her office. We'll follow her for the next 72 hours without interruption. Stay available. I'll send you updates every 6 hours. He hung up before I could reply. Professional and direct, exactly what I needed. The first 24 hours were relatively normal, according to Baltazar's reports. Nuria arrived at her office at 9:01. She had lunch with 2 colleagues in the company cafeteria. She left at 6:30 p.m. She got home at 7:15 p.m. We had dinner together. She talked about a new project at work. I nodded, smiled, feigned interest. Tuesday, the 28th, was different. Baltazar called me at 2:47 p.m. Your wife left the office at 2:30 p.m., claiming an external meeting. We followed her to the Chimberry neighborhood. She entered an apartment building on Alonso Cano Street, number 43. 3rd floor, door B. She didn't come out alone. My hand gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Who did she leave with? A man, approximately 38 years old, brown hair, 1.80 meters tall. He was wearing a gray suit. I have photographs. I'm sending them to you now. My phone vibrated. I opened the file. The image showed Nuria leaving the building with a man who perfectly matched the description. He had his hand on the small of her back. Nuria was smiling. That smile I knew so well, the one that used to be only for me. Investigate that man. I want to know everything about him. I ordered in a voice I didn't recognize as my own. I'm already on it. I'll have complete information for you tonight. At 10 p.m., Baltazar sent me a detailed report by email. I locked myself in my office to read it. The man's name was Ignacio Beltran Santos, 38 years old. Single. Operations supervisor at the same company where Nuria worked. According to the corporate records Baltazar had obtained, Ignacio reported directly to Nuria in the organizational structure. She was his boss. The report included bank statements for the apartment. Ignacio had rented it in July 2024, exactly when Nuria got her promotion. The rent was €850 per month. 18 months multiplied by €850 is €15,300 invested in a love nest. But there was more. Much more. Baltazar had gained access to the building's security recordings. The log showed Nuria had visited that apartment every Friday for the last 18 months, always between 7 p.m. and 11 p.m., always with Ignacio. 73 Fridays, 73 documented visits. He had also obtained photographs of them in restaurants. One in particular destroyed me. It was from February 14th, 2025, Valentine's Day. That day, Nuria had told me she had a mandatory work dinner. I had eaten dinner alone at home. The photograph showed Nuria and Ignacio at La Maquina restaurant, sharing a bottle of red wine, holding hands across the table. She was wearing the red dress I had given her for Christmas. On Wednesday, January 29th, Baltazar completed his investigation with a detail that changed everything. Mr. Cabrera, I have something else. We recovered deleted messages from your wife's corporate phone. Our IT expert managed to access the company's backup cloud. This is completely legal under the circumstances. Do you want me to send them to you? Send them all. I received a 127-page PDF file. WhatsApp conversations between Nuria and Ignacio starting in June 2024, a month before the apartment was rented. The first messages were professional, then flirtatious, then explicit. But what really destroyed me were the messages where they talked about me. My husband works late today. We can have the whole night. Nuria wrote on August 3, 2024. Does he suspect anything? Ignacio asked. Not at all. Eliseo is too busy with his numbers and spreadsheets. He doesn't notice anything that happens beyond his computer, she replied. Another message from October 22, 2024. This morning Eliseo asked me if everything was okay. I told him yes, and he believed me. It's so easy to lie to him. Ignacio replied, You're bad. I love you like that. I had to close the file. My hands were shaking so much I couldn't hold the phone. I got up, went to the bathroom, and vomited. Not from the alcohol, from the betrayal, from the words, from the ease with which they talked about cheating on me. When I returned to the office, I continued reading. There were messages about the work trips that were actually romantic getaways. Valencia was never a conference. It was a weekend at a 5-star hotel facing the beach. Malaga wasn't a team retreat. It was a rented cabin in the mountains. San Sebastian was a suite with a view of the Cantabrian Sea. Every lie documented, every betrayal recorded, every moment of my humiliation captured in pixels. Baltazar called at 11:55 p.m. on Wednesday. Mr. Cabrera, I have everything you need. Photographs, videos, bank statements, messages, apartment entry logs. Everything is documented, dated, and verifiable. This is enough for any divorce proceeding. Do you want me to prepare the final report? Yes, and I need copies of everything. Digital and physical, triple backup. You'll have it tomorrow morning. Mr. Cabrera, I'm very sorry for what's happening. In my 20 years of doing this, the human capacity for deceit never ceases to amaze me. After hanging up, I sat in the darkness of my office. It was 12:17 a.m. on Thursday, January 30th. In exactly 72 hours, Baltazar had demolished 26 years of my life. But he had also given me something priceless, the truth. And with the truth came power. Nuria and Ignacio thought I was a fool obsessed with numbers and spreadsheets. They were right about the numbers, but they were wrong to think that made me weak. The numbers were my weapon, the data was my ammunition, and I had just accumulated a complete arsenal. Now I just needed the perfect moment to use it. On Thursday morning, January 30th, Baltazar arrived at my office with 3 printed copies of the full report and 4 USB drives with all the digital files. Each document was organized chronologically, each photograph numbered and dated, each text message transcribed. There's something else I found last night, Baltazar said as he placed an additional folder on my desk. I wasn't specifically looking for this, but it appeared in the recovered messages. I think you should see it. I opened the folder. They were screenshots of WhatsApp conversations between Nuria and someone saved as Eli. I recognized that nickname immediately. It was Alisa, my daughter. When are these messages from? I wondered, feeling something cold settle in my chest. The first are from October 23, 2024. The most recent from the day before yesterday, Tuesday, January 28th. October 2024. 4 months ago. My daughter had known for 4 months. I began to read. The first conversation hit me like a punch. Nuria, honey, I need a huge favor. Your father thinks I'm going to a conference in Barcelona this weekend. If he asks, tell him I called you and that everything's fine. Alisa, Mom, I don't know if I can keep doing this. I feel horrible lying to Dad. Nuria, just this one more time. I promise you. It's complicated. You'll understand someday. Alisa, okay, but it's the last time. It wasn't the last time. I kept reading. There were dozens of similar conversations. Nuria asking for alibis, Alisa providing them. At first, my daughter showed reluctance, guilt, but that changed quickly. From November 14th, 2024. Alisa, Dad asked me if I knew anything about your frequent trips. I told him it was for work and that you were very stressed. He completely bought it. Nuria, Thanks, my love. Your father is very naive. He always has been. Alisa, when are you going to tell him the truth, Nuria? Soon, when the time is right. From December 22nd, 2024, just before Christmas. Alisa, Mom, Dad is planning a special dinner for New Year's. He says he wants to reconnect as a family. I feel sorry for him seeing him so excited. Nuria, I'll go to the dinner, don't worry. I can act a little longer. Ignacio understands. Dad never suspects anything. Nuria, your father is too busy with his clients and his numbers. I could have a sign on my forehead that says, I'm cheating on you, and he wouldn't notice. Alisa, ha. It's true. Dad lives in his own world. That laugh, that ha. My own daughter, laughing at my ignorance. But the worst came later. Messages from January 16th, 2026, just 11 days ago. Nuria, your father wants us to have dinner together on Saturday. Can you come and make everything seem normal? Of course, Mom. But honestly, how long are you going to keep up this charade? You've been with Ignacio for almost 2 years. Nuria, it's complicated, honey. The divorce would emotionally ruin your father. I'm trying to protect him in my own way. Alisa, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's your decision. Just tell me what you need me to do. Protecting me in her own way. What a twisted concept of protection, lying to me for 18 months while sharing a bed with another man. There were more messages. Alisa had covered for her mother on multiple occasions. When I called asking where Nuria was, Alisa would say they were having coffee together. When I mentioned Nuria was coming home late, Alisa would invent excuses about traffic or last-minute meetings. One of the most recent messages, from January 26th, 2 days after my discovery at Dolores's house. Alisa, Mom, Dad acted weird when he came to my office yesterday. He asked me specific things about your schedules. I think he suspects something. Nuria, impossible. Your father is too trusting, but I'll be more careful. Thanks for letting me know, Alisa. Always, Mom. That's what daughters are for. I closed the folder. I couldn't read anymore. Baltazar watched me in silence. Your daughter is 26, isn't she? He asked in a soft voice. Yes, old enough to understand the consequences of her actions. Yes, I repeated, feeling something break inside my chest. It wasn't just my wife, it was my daughter too. My only daughter, the girl I raised, whom I carried on my shoulders when she was 5, whom I helped with homework throughout high school, whom I paid for college completely, whom I supported when she decided to open her law firm. That same girl had betrayed me for 4 months, consciously, deliberately, and worst of all, she had laughed at me. There's something else you should know, continued Baltazar. Your daughter receives monthly transfers from you, correct? 1,000 euros per month for her apartment rent, another 300 euros for expenses, and I paid 50,400 euros in total since she moved out 3 years ago. You also paid for her master's degree in corporate law, 15,000 euros per year, and you lent her 45,000 euros to open her firm. How do you know all that? It's my job to know, Mr. Cabrera. You've invested a lot in that young woman, economically and emotionally, and she repaid you by being an accomplice in her mother's deception. He was right. 110,400 euros in 3 years, not counting the 45,000 euro loan she hadn't paid back yet. All that money, all that support, and this is how she paid me back. That night, Alisa came to dinner at our house. Nuria had cooked lasagna, my favorite dish. How ironic. During dinner, I watched my daughter, the way she avoided my gaze, how she exchanged complicit glances with her mother, the little smiles they shared when they thought I wasn't looking. How's your firm going, Alisa? I asked in a neutral voice. Good, Dad. Slow but good. Thanks for asking. Do you need anything else? Financial help. She hesitated, glanced at her mother briefly. No, Dad, I'm fine for now. A lie. According to Baltazar, her firm was losing money. She needed help, but her pride or her guilt prevented her from asking. We finished dinner. Alisa left at 10:30 p.m. She kissed my cheek goodbye. I love you, Dad, she said. I love you too. I replied automatically, but the words sounded hollow even to me. When she left, Nuria washed the dishes. I retreated to my office under the pretext of reviewing some documents. I opened the folder with the messages between my wife and daughter again. I read them all one more time, this time taking notes, dates, details, patterns. My daughter wasn't an innocent victim caught in the middle. She was an active participant, a conscious accomplice, and that, somehow, hurt even more than Nuria's betrayal. Because you can divorce your wife, but your daughter, how do you divorce your own blood? On Friday, January 31st, I made a decision. If Nuria had spent 18 months planning her betrayal, I would use 3 weeks to plan my defense, and my job as a financial consultant gave me advantages she couldn't even imagine. The first thing was to call Teodoro Marquez, a lawyer specializing in contentious divorces. I knew him from my work. I had testified as a financial expert in 2 of his cases. We met that same Friday at 4 p.m. in his office on Grand Via. I have irrefutable proof of adultery, I explained as I handed him a copy of Balthazar's report. 18 months documented. I want a fault-based divorce. Teodoro reviewed the report for 30 minutes without interrupting. When he finished, he whistled softly. This is solid. With this evidence, you'll get a favorable division of assets, probably 70-30 in your favor. But you need to act quickly before she moves the assets. I've already thought about it. I need advice on how to legally protect the estate. Tell me exactly what you have. I took out my laptop and opened the spreadsheets I had prepared. Joint savings account at Banco Santander, 240,000 euro. Investment account at CaixaBank, 180,000 euro. Mutual funds in both our names, 320,000 euro in Spanish stocks, 460,000 euro in international bonds. Life insurance with Nuria as beneficiary, 215,000 euro. House valued at 520,000 euro, fully paid off. In both our names. Teodoro did mental calculations. We're talking about approximately 1,935,000 euros in liquid assets and properties, not counting your consulting firm. Correct. Okay, here's what you can do legally. The investment accounts have individual ownership clauses. Since you are both holders with independent trading rights, you can reorganize your positions without her consent. It's not withdrawing money. It's restructuring investments. And the savings accounts? More delicate. Large transfers would generate alerts, but you can make gradual movements under the pretext of new investments or legitimate business expenses. Nothing exceeding 10,000 euro per transaction. And the life insurance? Change the beneficiary. It's your right as the policyholder. Put your mother or a trust. We spent the next 2 hours designing a strategy. Teodoro was meticulous and cautious. Every move had to be legal, defensible before a judge, impossible to reverse. On Monday, February 3rd, I began the operations. First, the investments. I called my manager at CaixaBank, Ruben Cifuentes, with whom I had worked for 15 years. Ruben, I want to completely restructure my portfolio, sell all joint positions, and open new accounts solely in my name. Any specific reason, Eliseo? I'm planning major changes in my life. I prefer to have direct control of my assets. He didn't ask any more questions. In 3 days, the 780,000 euros in stocks and bonds were transferred to individual accounts under my exclusive name. Nuria received standard bank notifications about portfolio restructuring. Nothing alarming. She didn't even ask. Then came the most complex part, the savings accounts. Over the next 2 weeks, I made different transactions. Payments to fictitious suppliers for consulting services, investments in emerging business opportunities, transfers to offshore accounts in Luxembourg under the pretext of international asset diversification. Each transaction was between 8,000 euros and 9,900 euros, none large enough to trigger money laundering alerts, none frequent enough to seem suspicious. By Wednesday, February 12th, I had moved 280,000 euros from the joint accounts. I left 60,000 euros to keep up appearances. If Nuria checked, she would see normal investment activity. On Thursday, February 13th, I changed the life insurance beneficiary. It was no longer Nuria. Now it was my mother, Remedios Morales, 77 years old. The insurance company processed the change in 48 hours. 215,000 euros protected. I also reviewed other assets I had forgotten. A private retirement account with 145,000 euros, a small apartment in Alicante I inherited from my father valued at 190,000 euros, rented to tourists, shares in my own consulting firm valued at 300,000 euros. Everything was exclusively in my name. Nuria had no legal right to any of it. On Friday, February 14th, it was Valentine's Day. How ironic. Exactly a year ago, Nuria had dinner with Ignacio while I ate alone. This year, she arrived with flowers and chocolates. For you, my love. I'm sorry I've been so absent lately, she said as she handed me the gifts. I accepted with a cold smile. Thanks, darling. They're beautiful. That night, we went to dinner at an Italian restaurant. Nuria was particularly affectionate. She held my hand across the table, looked me in the eyes, acted like the perfect wife. I acted too. I told her I loved her. I thanked her for the 26 years together. We toasted with red wine, but in my mind, I was calculating. So far, I had secured 1,125,000 euros. Faltaba la casa, but Teodoro had advised me not to touch it yet. That would be the last move. On Saturday, February 15th, Nuria announced another work trip. I have to go to Zaragoza next weekend. Regional team evaluation. I leave Friday morning, come back Sunday night. Do you need me to take you to the airport? I offered. No. Carino, the company pays for the taxi. Another lie. According to Baltazar, who was still monitoring discreetly, Nuria and Ignacio had booked a rural house in the Pyrenees. 2 nights, a king-size bed, private jacuzzi. Have a good trip, I said simply. On Tuesday, February 18th, I met with Teodoro again. I showed him all the completed financial moves. You've done an excellent job, he admitted. By the time of the divorce, you'll have protected more than 60% of the liquid assets. With the proof of adultery, the judge will give you between 70 and 75% of the rest. When should I file the papers? After the confrontation. You need that moment of impact, for her to know she's lost before she can react. And my daughter? Teodoro looked at me with something resembling compassion. That's your decision, Eliseo. Legally, you have no obligation to support her financially. She's 26. But emotionally, only you can decide that. I had already decided, but it wasn't time to execute it yet. On Thursday, February 20th, I completed the last move. I formally documented all the financial support I had given Alisa. 50,400 euros in rent, 30,000 euros in master's tuition, 45,000 euros in a loan for her firm, 12,000 euros in furniture and equipment, 28,000 euros for the Audi A4 that was registered in my name, but she drove. Total, 165,400 euros invested in a daughter who had betrayed me for 4 months. Everything was documented. Everything was revocable. It would all end soon. During those 3 weeks of financial reorganization, I became the best actor in my own life. Every morning I woke up, kissed Nuria on the forehead, asked her how she had slept. Every night we had dinner together, shared details of our day, watched television on the sofa. She suspected absolutely nothing. On Monday, February 3rd, while I was transferring the first 80,000 euros to offshore accounts, Nuria came home with a very expensive bottle of wine. Let's celebrate love. They approved my budget to expand my department. 10 new hires, she announced radiantly. We toasted. I smiled. I told her I was proud of her. Inside, I wondered if Ignacio would be one of those 10 new employees under her command. On Wednesday, February 5th, I documented my first new lie. Nuria said she had a meeting until 11 p.m. Baltazar, who was still monitoring occasionally, confirmed she was at the Chambéry apartment from 7:30 p.m. to 10:45 p.m. I recorded the conversation where she called me at 9:15 p.m., saying she was still at the office. This is going to run late. There was background noise, soft music, clinking glasses. It definitely wasn't an office. On Thursday, February 6th, Alisa came for lunch. She talked about a new case at her firm, a client with labor issues. I gave her legal advice. She thanked me profusely. You're the best father in the world, Dad. I don't know what I'd do without your support, she said as we finished dessert. I nodded, smiled, and offered her more coffee, but I remembered the messages where she laughed at me with her mother. On Saturday, February 8th, I organized a family dinner. I invited Dolores, who arrived pale and nervous. Nuria acted as if nothing had happened. She hugged her mother, asked about her health, poured wine for everyone. Dolores looked at me with sad eyes. She knew that I knew. She knew her daughter was putting on a charade, but she remained silent, as I had asked. During dinner, Nuria announced casually, "Mom, I'll be busy the next few weekends. Staff evaluations in different cities. I won't be able to visit you as much as I'd like. Dolores clutched her napkin so tightly her knuckles turned white. I understand, daughter. Work is important. I ate my paella in silence, watching how easily my wife lied to her own mother. On Monday, February 10th, I received a message from Nuria. Love, I forgot to tell you, from the 21st to the 23rd, I have a mandatory management team retreat in Zaragoza. It's already confirmed. I'm sorry. No problem. I'll miss you, I replied. I immediately called Baltazar. I need to know exactly what she's planning for that weekend. He called me back 3 hours later. They've booked a rural house in Segovia, not Zaragoza. 2 nights. They registered as a married couple under his surname. The reservation is in the name of Ignacio Beltran. He paid 2,300 euros for the entire rental. 2,300 euros, more than what some Spaniards earned in a month, all for a weekend of lies. Perfect, I said. Keep me informed of any changes. On Tuesday, February 11th, Nuria arrived with shopping bags, new clothes, lingerie I had never seen, a blue dress that looked spectacular on her. What's all this for? I asked with genuine curiosity. For the retreat. I want to make a good impression on the managers from other regions, she explained as she hung the new dress in the closet. You'll look beautiful, I said honestly. And it was true. She would look beautiful for another man. On Wednesday, February 12th, I had a video call with Alisa. She asked for my advice on a commercial contract she had to review for a client. Dad, I really don't know how to repay you for everything you do for me, she said at the end of the conversation. You're my daughter. It's what fathers do, I replied in a neutral voice. I love you very much. Me too. The words came out mechanically, empty, because every time I spoke to her, I remembered the messages. Dad is so naive. He completely bought it. On Friday, February 14th, I took Nuria to dinner for Valentine's Day. I mentioned it before, but what I didn't say was what happened next. At the restaurant, her phone vibrated constantly. She ignored it, but I could see her screen reflected in the mirror behind her. Messages from Nacho, one after another, heart emojis, phrases like, I miss you and I wish I were having dinner with you. Nacho, Ignacio, her lover, was writing to her while she was having Valentine's dinner with me. The irony was so absurd it almost made me laugh. On Monday, February 17th, Nuria started packing for her retreat in Zaragoza. I watched her put the new lingerie in her suitcase, the blue dress, high-heeled shoes, the expensive perfume I had given her for Christmas. Do you need cash for the trip? I offered. No, love. The company covers everything. Another lie. According to Baltazar, she had withdrawn 600 euros in cash that same morning from her personal account. On Wednesday, February 19th, I had my last meeting with Teodoro before the confrontation. Everything is ready, he confirmed. Divorce papers prepared. Evidence organized. I've booked the private room at Baden Restaurant for Friday, the 21st, at 8 p.m. 75 people confirmed. 75. Close friends of the marriage, her colleagues, her boss Rodrigo, your co-workers, and, of course, Dolores and Alisa. All the invitations were sent as a surprise early anniversary dinner. No one knows the real purpose. And the audiovisual equipment? Projector installed, 3-meter screen, professional sound system. You'll have a remote control to show whatever you want, whenever you want. On Thursday, February 20th, was the last full day of normality. Nuria and I had breakfast together. She talked excitedly about her retreat. I nodded, asked appropriate questions, acted interested. I'm going to miss you this weekend, she said as she got ready to go to work. I'll miss you too. I lied with an ease that surprised me. We kissed at the door. It was an empty, mechanical kiss, but she smiled as if it were real. That night, alone at home, I reviewed everything one last time. Every document, every photograph, every message, every bank transfer, every documented lie. Tomorrow, February 21st, it would all end, and Nuria had no idea what was about to happen to her. Friday, February 21st, dawned with a clear sky and a biting cold. Ironic for the day, I would incinerate my marriage. Nuria got up at 7:30, earlier than usual. Her suitcase was ready by the door from last night. I watched her shower, put on makeup carefully, dress in elegant but discreet clothes. Not the blue dress she had bought. She saved that in her suitcase. It was for later. What time does your flight leave? I asked while she was having coffee. At 11, but I want to get to the airport early. You know how security is lately. There was no flight. Baltazar had confirmed that Ignacio would pick her up at 10:30 on the corner of our street. 2 blocks away, far enough for me not to see them from the window. Have a good retreat, I said, kissing her on the cheek. See you on Sunday. I'll call you tonight, she promised. One more lie for the collection. At 10:27, I watched from the second-floor window as Nuria left with her suitcase. She walked to the corner. At exactly 10:32, a gray Mercedes stopped. Ignacio got out, loaded her suitcase into the trunk, hugged her in the middle of the street. Then they kissed. It wasn't a friendly kiss. It was deep, passionate, unhurried. I photographed everything from my window, not because I needed more proof, but because I wanted to remember this moment, the moment she thought she had won. At 2 p.m., I arrived at Baden Restaurant. Teodoro was already there, overseeing the technical preparations. The private room could comfortably seat 100 people. I had booked for 75. The projector works perfectly, Teodoro reported as we tested the system. I've loaded all the presentations on 3 different devices in case of technical failures. All guests confirmed, 72 out of 75. Rodrigo Zamora will come with his wife. 5 more colleagues from Nuria's department. Your partners from the consulting firm. Mutual friends from the golf club. And of course, Dolores will arrive at 7:30 p.m. And Alisa? She confirmed. She doesn't suspect anything. She genuinely thinks it's a surprise anniversary dinner for her mother. At 7 p.m., the waiters began to serve appetizers, salmon canapes, Iberian ham, Rioja red wine, all top quality. 500 euros just for starters. So be it. It would be the last dinner I paid for Nuria. The guests arrived gradually. Greetings, hugs, questions about where the birthday girl was. I explained that she was coming directly from the airport, that she would arrive around 8 p.m. Dolores arrived at 7:33 p.m. She looked gaunt, aged. She hugged me without a word. Her eyes were red. Are you sure about this, Eliseo? She whispered in my ear completely. It's going to destroy her. She destroyed herself. Alisa arrived at 7:47 p.m. She wore an elegant black dress. She hugged her grandmother, kissed my cheek. She acted perfectly normal, charming with the guests. The model daughter. Dad, does Mom know about this party? She asked with a complicit smile. It's going to be a total surprise, I replied. And I wasn't lying. At 25 minutes to 8, everyone was seated. The room buzzed with conversations, laughter, wine glasses circulating. No one knew they were about to witness a social execution. Teodoro gave me a signal from the door. They're coming. Baltazar just confirmed. They entered the parking lot 30 seconds ago. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I held the projector's remote control. The giant screen was covered with a black cloth. It looked like a normal preparation for a family photo presentation. At 8:15 p.m., the door to the room opened. Nuria entered first. She was wearing the blue dress, her hair freshly styled, her makeup flawless. Behind her, with his hand casually placed on her lower back, came Ignacio Beltran. They were laughing. He was whispering something in her ear. She was smiling with that smile I knew so well, the smile of genuine happiness. Then she saw the full room. Her smile froze. The color drained from her face. Her eyes scanned the room. Rodrigo, her boss, her colleagues from the department, our friends, and finally, she saw me, standing next to the giant screen, holding a microphone. Nuria, what a surprise to see you here, I said, my voice amplified by the speakers. I thought you were in Zaragoza on a work retreat. The silence that followed was absolute. 72 people looking at Nuria, at Ignacio, back at me. Ignacio tried to let go of her hand, but it was too late. Everyone had already seen them enter together, touching, laughing like a couple. Eliseo, this isn't. Nuria began, but I raised my hand. Don't say anything yet. First, let me show everyone something interesting. I pressed the remote. The black cloth fell. The screen came to life. First image, Nuria and Ignacio entering the Chimberi apartment. Date and time in the top corner. July 26, 2024, 7:47 p.m. Second image, the two of them leaving the same building 3 hours later, adjusting their clothes. Third image, Nuria and Ignacio at La Maquina restaurant, Valentine's Day, 2025, holding hands. The images continued, one after another. Every Friday for 18 months. Documented, chronological, irrefutable. The room was in complete silence. The only sound was the click of the projector changing slides. Then came the messages, projected in large letters so everyone could read. Eliseo is so naive. He never suspects anything. Your father lives in his own world of numbers. He could have a sign that said, "I'm cheating on you," and he wouldn't notice. Those messages were between Nuria and Alisa. I heard a choked cry. I looked to where my daughter was. She was pale, with her hands covering her mouth. Then came the bank statements. The apartment, €850 per month for 18 months. Total, €15,300. The hotels, the restaurants, the trips that were never conferences, all projected, all quantified, all undeniable. Rodrigo stood up from his table. Nuria, is this real? She couldn't speak. She was trembling from head to toe. Ignacio tried to walk towards the exit, but Teodoro discreetly blocked the door. I'm not done yet, I said in a cold voice. There's more. I projected the last document. The petition for a fault-based divorce with proven adultery, signed by me, dated today, with certified copies of all the evidence attached. 18 months, I said, looking directly at Nuria. 73 Fridays, 12 romantic getaways, thousands of lies. And I've known everything since January 24th, exactly 4 weeks ago. Alisa screamed, Dad, this is public humiliation. You had no right. I turned to her. Right? Like the right you had to help her lie to me for 4 months? Those messages were yours too, Alisa. Dolores started to cry. She got up and walked towards the exit. She passed by Nuria without looking at her. Mom, please, Nuria begged. Dolores stopped. I don't have a daughter, she said in a broken voice. Then she left. The room exploded in murmurs. Some people stood up, others took out their phones. Rodrigo was talking urgently with other company executives. I turned off the projector. The dinner is paid for. Enjoy it if you want. I'm leaving. I walked towards the exit, passed by Nuria. She reached out her hand to me. Eliseo, can we talk? My lawyer will contact you on Monday. Sign the papers, or this will become even more public. I left Baden Restaurant at 8:52 p.m. The cold February air hit my face. Behind me, I heard screams, crying, chaos. In front of me, there was only silence and justice. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed at a hotel near the office, the Hotel Itana, room 312, an empty king-size bed that felt bigger than ever. My phone didn't stop vibrating until 4 in the morning. 43 missed calls from Nuria, 27 messages, 19 from Alisa. I didn't answer any of them. At 8:15 a.m. on Saturday, February 22nd, Teodoro called. Eliseo, you need to see this. His voice sounded tense. What happened? Rodrigo Zamora fired Nuria last night. Immediate disciplinary procedure, sentimental relationship with a direct subordinate, use of company resources for personal purposes, falsification of travel reports. The company has zero tolerance for these situations. I felt something like satisfaction, but empty. And Ignacio? Also fired, effective immediately. They were given 30 minutes to collect their personal belongings with a security escort. Rodrigo is furious. He says they compromised the integrity of the entire department. At 10 a.m., my phone rang again. This time it was an unknown number. I answered. Mr. Cabrera, I'm Catalina Bermudez, your wife Nuria Vega's lawyer. She has hired me to represent her in the divorce proceedings. We need to talk about an amicable resolution. Tell your client to speak with my lawyer, Teodoro Marquez. I have nothing to discuss with her. Mr. Cabrera, I understand your position, but last night's public humiliation was excessive. My client is considering pressing charges for moral damages and defamation. I laughed. It was a bitter, humorless laugh. Defamation? I presented verifiable evidence. Every photograph is dated and timed. Every message is authentic. Every bank statement is official. Tell your client that if she wants a public trial, she'll get one, and it will be worse than last night. I hung up before she could reply. At 11:30 a.m., Alisa showed up at the hotel. I don't know how she knew where I was. The concierge called from reception. Mr. Cabrera, there's a young woman here who says she's your daughter. She insists on seeing you. Tell her I'm not available. She says she'll wait all day if necessary. I went down to the reception at 12:15 p.m. Alisa was sitting in the lobby with eyes swollen from crying. When she saw me, she stood up immediately. Dad, we need to talk. There's nothing to talk about, Alisa. Please, just 5 minutes. I looked at her, this 26-year-old woman who had helped her mother destroy our marriage. 5 minutes. Here. In public. We sat in 2 armchairs in the lobby. She tried to take my hand. I pulled it away. Dad, I'm so sorry. I made a horrible mistake. Mom manipulated me. She told me you wouldn't understand, that it was complicated. She told you I was naive. You laughed when she wrote that I would never find out. You weren't manipulated, Alisa. You were an accomplice. I was afraid of losing you too. Mom said if you found out everything, you would leave and I'd be alone. Then you should have told me the truth since October. You had 4 months to choose to do the right thing. You chose to protect her. What do you want me to do? How can I fix this? Her voice was breaking. You can't. Some mistakes can't be fixed. Some acts can't be forgiven. Are you going to stop being my father? The question hung between us, heavy, definitive. I'll always be your father biologically, but financially, emotionally, practically. Don't count on me anymore. What does that mean? You'll find out soon. I got up and went back to my room. She didn't follow me. On Sunday, February 23rd, Dolores called me. Her voice sounded tired, defeated. Eliseo, Nuria came to my house last night, screaming, crying, saying I should have warned her that you knew, that I betrayed her. And what did you tell her? That she first betrayed you, our family, her marriage vows. That I raised a better daughter than that, and I don't recognize the woman she's become. Dolores sobbed. I asked her to leave. I changed the locks this morning. I'm sorry, Dolores. I know she's your daughter. She was my daughter. The Nuria I knew died 18 months ago. This woman who lies and manipulates is not my blood. On Monday, February 24th, at 9 a.m., I met with Teodoro in his office. He brought new documents. The judge accepted to process the express divorce. With the evidence we presented, there's no possible defense. Nuria can accept the terms or go to a full trial. Her new lawyer knows she'll lose in court. How long? If she signs this week, the divorce is finalized in 45 days. If she decides to fight, it could take 6 months, and the result will be the same, only more public and more costly for her. What terms do you propose? Teodoro opened a thick folder. Division of assets, 70/30ths in your favor for proven adultery. Of the original liquid assets, you keep the 840,000 euro you legally protected. Of the remaining shared assets, mainly the house valued at 520,000 euro, you'll receive 70%, 364,000 euro. She receives 30%, 156,000 euro. Total for her, approximately 336,000 euro from a 26-year marriage with an estate of almost 2 million. It's devastating for her, but legal under the circumstances. And alimony? Nothing. She worked, earned well, and the divorce is her fault. She's not entitled to maintenance. Perfect. Prepare the final documents. That same afternoon, I received an email from the company where Nuria worked. It was from Patricia Soler, the Corporate Human Resources Director. Dear Mr. Cabrera, we are deeply sorry for the events that have affected your personal life. As part of our internal investigation, we have discovered additional financial irregularities. Your ex-wife approved unauthorized corporate expenses totaling 37,000 euro over the last year. We are considering legal action. If you wish to provide testimony, please contact us. 37,000 euro. Nuria had not only cheated on me personally, she had defrauded her employer too. On Tuesday, February 25th, the story hit social media. Someone who was at the restaurant had recorded part of the confrontation. A 2-minute video was circulating on Twitter. It already had 80,000 views. The comments were brutal. This woman destroyed 26 years of marriage, and now she cries like a victim. The husband is a genius. He humiliated her exactly as she humiliated him. Poetic justice. She thought she was smarter. On Wednesday, February 26th, Catalina Bermudez, Nuria's lawyer, called Teodoro again. My client accepts the terms. She'll sign tomorrow. She only asks for one thing, that her ex-husband withdraw the corporate complaint. The company will sue her for fraud. Teodoro consulted me. What do you want to do? Let her face the consequences of all her actions. I won't withdraw anything. On Thursday, February 27th, Nuria signed the divorce papers. Teodoro sent me a photo of the document. Her signature was trembling. There were tear stains on the paper. 45 days to official freedom. But emotionally, I was already free since January 24th, since the night I had dinner with Dolores and discovered the truth. On Friday, February 28th, I received the official confirmation. The divorce was an irreversible process. Nuria had signed, accepting all terms without modifications. Her lawyer had advised her that fighting would only make things worse. Teodoro scheduled a meeting for that same day at 4 p.m. When I arrived at his office, there was another man waiting, tall, thin, with metal-framed glasses. Eliseo, I'd like you to meet Damian Cortez, a certified judicial appraiser. He's going to do the official inventory of all marital assets. For the next 3 hours, Damian reviewed every document I had prepared: bank statements, property titles, investment certificates, deeds, insurance policies. The house in Madrid, on Breton de los Herreros Street, current valuation €520,000, is fully paid off, no mortgages. According to the agreed division, 70% for Mr. Cabrera, €364,000, 30% for Mrs. Vega, €156,000. How is that executed? I asked. You have 3 options, Damian explained. First, sell the house and divide the cash according to the percentages. Second, Mr. Cabrera buys her share by paying her €156,000. Third, Mrs. Vega buys your share by paying you €364,000. Nuria doesn't have €364,000 in liquid assets, Teodoro commented. With what she receives from the divorce, she barely reaches €336,000. Then we'll sell, I decided. I want that house out of my life. Damian continued. Remaining joint bank accounts, €60,000 after the transfers you legally made. Division, €42,000 for you, €18,000 for her. The €840,000 I protected before the divorce remained completely mine. Correct. Those movements were legal and were made before filing for divorce. The court can't touch them. Teodoro opened another folder. Eliseo, there's a pending matter. Your daughter. What about her? Legally, Alisa is an independent adult. You have no obligation to support her financially. However, you've been generous with her for years. You need to formalize the cutting of financial support with appropriate legal documentation. What do you recommend? I'll prepare certified letters detailing, first, immediate cancellation of monthly rent payments. Second, revocation of the use of the Audi A for vehicle registered in your name. Third, cancellation of the payment for her master's in corporate law. Fourth, demand for full payment of the €45,000 loan within 90 days, or legal action will be taken. Prepare all the documents. I'll sign them today. On Saturday, March 1st, the documents arrived by certified mail at Alisa's apartment. I wasn't present, but Teodoro sent me confirmation of receipt. She signed at 11:27 a.m. She called me 30 minutes later, crying so hard I could barely understand what she was saying. Dad, why? Why are you doing this to me? You read the documents. The reasons are clear. But I'm your daughter. I made a mistake. I don't deserve to lose everything. You had 4 months to correct that mistake. You chose not to. Now you live with the consequences. How am I going to pay €45,000 in 90 days? It's impossible. My firm barely generates €3,000 a month. That's your problem, not mine. Dad, please. At least give me more time, a year, 2 years, whatever. The letter specifies the terms, 90 days or legal proceedings. There's no negotiation. I'm going to lose my firm. I'm going to lose my apartment. I have nowhere to live. You should have thought of that before helping your mother destroy this marriage. I hung up. She tried to call 17 more times that day. I blocked her number. On Sunday, March 2nd, I showed up at the apartment Alisa was renting with my financial support. I rang the doorbell at 10 a.m. She opened it with swollen eyes, dressed in pajamas. What are you doing here? She asked in a broken voice. I came for the car. The Audi is registered in my name. It's technically my property. I'm here to retrieve it. Dad, I need that car for work, for client meetings. Not my problem anymore. The keys. I can't give them to you. I need transportation. I took out my phone. I can call the police and report the vehicle as illegally withheld, or you can give me the keys voluntarily. You decide. She looked at me with a mix of disbelief and pain. She went into the apartment, came back with the keys, and handed them to me with trembling hands. I hate you, she whispered. Right now, I hate you with all my soul. I know, and I don't care. I drove the Audi back to my new apartment. I would sell it the following week for 28,000 euros. Every euro recovered was a euro Alisa didn't deserve. On Monday, March 3rd, the university where Alisa was studying for her master's contacted me. The payment for the second semester was overdue, 7,500 euros. Mr. Cabrera always pays on time. Is there a problem? Asked the academic coordinator. I won't be making any more payments related to my daughter's education. She is responsible for her own expenses now. I understand. Without payment, Miss Cabrera will be suspended from the program in 1 week. That's her problem, not mine. On Tuesday, March 4th, I received an email from Salvador Benitez, Alisa's landlord. I was the guarantor on the contract. Mr. Cabrera, your daughter informed me that you will no longer guarantee her rent. I need formal confirmation. The current contract expires in June. Without a guarantor, I'll have to ask her to vacate. I replied immediately. I confirm that I formally resign as guarantor, effective today, March 4th, 2026. My daughter is responsible for her own financial commitments. Salvador replied in an hour. Understood. I will notify Miss Cabrera that she must vacate in 60 days. On Wednesday, March 5th, Teodoro informed me about Nuria. The company filed a civil lawsuit against her for misappropriation of corporate funds, 37,000 euros in unauthorized expenses. They want full restitution plus punitive damages, probably 50,000 euros total. Does she have that money with what she gets from the divorce? Technically, yes, but she'll be practically bankrupt afterwards. Good. On Thursday, March 6th, I sold the marital home. A young couple offered 530,000 euros, 10,000 euros above the appraised value. I accepted immediately. Division according to the sentence, 371,000 euros for me, 159,000 euros for Nuria. On Friday, March 7th, exactly 2 weeks after the confrontation at the restaurant, I did a mental inventory of the results. My final net worth, 840,000 euros protected, plus 42,000 euros from joint accounts, plus 371,000 euros from the house, plus 28,000 euros from the sold Audi. Total, 1,281,000 euros. Nuria's net worth, 159,000 euros from the house, plus 18,000 euros from joint accounts. Total, 177,000 euros, minus the 50,000 euros she'll have to pay her ex-company. Final result, 127,000 euros. Of an almost 2 million euro marital estate, she was left with barely 6%. And Alisa, my daughter who was once my pride, faced loss of apartment in 60 days, university suspension in 1 week, a debt of 45,000 euro due in 77 days, 0 vehicle, 0 paternal support. The consequences were in full effect, and they were just beginning. On Monday, March 10th, Alisa appeared at my consulting firm's offices. My secretary, Amparo Delgado, informed me over the intercom. Mr. Cabrera, your daughter is here. She says it's urgent. She seems upset. Tell her I don't have time. I already told her. She insists. She says she'll wait all day if necessary. I sighed. This had to end once and for all. Let her in. 5 minutes. Alisa entered my office, dragging her feet. She had lost weight. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. Her clothes, normally impeccable, were wrinkled. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. She sat in front of my desk without being invited. She placed a manila envelope on the polished surface. It's the eviction notice. 30 days to leave the apartment. Salvador won't renew without a guarantor. I didn't touch the envelope. I already knew. I warned you. They also suspended me from the master's program. 2 years of work lost. I needed that degree to specialize in corporate law. You should have thought about that before. Dad, I've already paid for my mistake. I lost my car. I'm going to lose my house. I lost my education. How much more punishment do you need to give me? It's not punishment, Alisa. It's consequences. There's a difference. She took papers from her bag, invoices, bank statements. She spread them on my desk. Look at this. I owe the bank 16,000 euros for the firm's line of credit, 8,500 euros in overdue rent for the commercial space, 3,200 euros to suppliers, and the 45,000 euro I owe you. Total, 72,700 euros. I have no way to pay it. That's not my problem either. I'm your daughter. You have a moral obligation to help me. I leaned back in my chair. I looked her directly in the eyes. Moral obligation? Like the moral obligation you had to tell me my wife was cheating on me? Like the moral obligation not to laugh at me with your mother? I've apologized 1,000 times. Apologies don't erase 4 months of conscious betrayal. Apologies don't restore trust. Apologies are empty words without actions to back them up. Alisa started to cry. They weren't manipulative tears. It was real, desperate, broken crying. Dad, I'm going to have to close my firm. All the effort, all the investment you made, all lost. Is that what you want? I invested in a daughter I thought had integrity. That investment was already lost in October of 2024. What if I offer you a payment plan? 1,000 euros a month for 45 months. I'll eventually pay you everything. 1,000 euros a month for 45 months is 45,000 euros, without interest. Why would I give you those terms? Because I'm your daughter. Because you raised me. Because you once loved me. I once trusted you too. She stood up abruptly. The chair fell backward with a crash. You're a monster. Mom was right about you. You were always cold and calculating. You only care about your numbers and your money. If that were the case, I never would have paid 165,400 euros for your education and your career. But that's over. Now, yes, only my numbers matter. I'm going to lose everything because of one mistake. One error? It wasn't an error, Alisa. Errors are accidental. You made conscious decisions for 4 months. Every time you covered for your mother, every time you lied for her, every time you laughed at my ignorance. Those were choices. You're never going to forgive me. Probably not. But even if I did someday emotionally, financially, I've already made my decisions. They're irrevocable. Alisa picked up her chair, sat down again. Her voice changed, became supplicant, almost childish. Dad, please, give me a chance. Just one. I'll pay you back every euro. I'll work day and night, but give me time. 6 months, a year, whatever you need. I already gave you 26 years of opportunities. You wasted them all in 4 months. What if I sell the firm? I can get 20,000 euros. It's a start. 20,000 euro out of 72,700 euros. You'd still owe 52,700 euros. Where will you get that from? I don't know. I'll look for a job at a big firm. I'll earn more. Big firms check references. Who's going to give you a good reference now? I won't. Your mother is unemployed and being sued for fraud. The silence that followed was devastating. Alisa realized something that I already knew. She was completely alone, with no safety net, no family backup, no easy options. Are you really going to let me fall? She asked in a small voice. You jumped yourself, Alisa. I just refuse to catch you. What will happen when I have children? When your grandchildren are born, won't you want to meet them? If you ever have children, I hope you teach them better than what you learned. That you teach them about loyalty, honesty, consequences. Maybe then we can talk. That could be in years, in decades. Or never. It depends entirely on you. Alisa slowly gathered her papers. She stood up, walked to the door. With her hand on the doorknob, she turned one last time. Do you know what the worst part of all this is, Dad? It's not losing the money. It's not losing the apartment or the car or the firm. It's realizing I never really mattered to you. I was just an investment to you. And when that investment failed, you discarded me like you discard a losing stock. If you were just an investment, I would have cut my losses years ago. I gave you 26 years because you were my daughter. But even a father's love has limits. And you crossed all of them. She left without saying goodbye. The door closed with a soft click. Amparo came in 5 minutes later. Are you okay, Mr. Cabrera? I'm fine. You don't look fine. You look affected. I am. But being affected doesn't mean I'll change my mind. That night, in my new apartment, I opened a bottle of 30-year-old whiskey. I poured myself 3 fingers. I sat in front of the window that gave a view of the illuminated city. I thought about Alisa, about the 5-year-old girl I used to carry on my shoulders, about the teenager who asked me for help with math, About the proud young university student at her graduation. That girl, that teenager, that young woman no longer existed. Or maybe she never really existed. Maybe she was always someone capable of betrayal, and I simply didn't want to see it. My phone vibrated. A message from Teodoro. The 90 days for the loan payment expire on June 4th. I'll proceed legally if she doesn't pay. I replied without hesitation. Yes, no exceptions. I drank the whiskey slowly. The liquid burned, but it was a simple pain, direct, honest, not like the pain of raising a daughter for 26 years only to discover that she would betray you out of loyalty to the one who destroyed you. That pain had no cure, only consequences, and I would make sure that those consequences were fulfilled to the end. August 2026, 6 months after the confrontation at Baden restaurant. The Madrid summer burned at 38 degrees Celsius, but I was in my new apartment with air conditioning, reviewing the final results of my personal war. The divorce was finalized on April 12th, an irrevocable court ruling. 26 years of marriage dissolved in 83 pages of legal documents. Nuria received her share, 127,000 euros after paying the restitution to her ex-company. I was left with 1,281,000 euros. But the money was just numbers. The real consequences were much deeper. Teodoro visited me on Tuesday, August 5th, with updates I hadn't requested but needed to hear. Eliseo, I thought you should know. Your ex-wife, Nuria, is living with Ignacio Beltran in a 60 square meters apartment in Getafe. Rent, 700 euros a month. She works as an administrative assistant in a dental clinic. She earns a month. From a regional manager earning 4,200 euros a month to an administrative assistant for 1,400 euros, a drop of 67%. And him? I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. Ignacio got a job as a warehouse supervisor, 600 euros a month. Between the two of them, they barely make over 3,000 euro. They fight constantly, according to neighbors I know. They're still together for now. But their relationship is fractured. It turns out the romance was exciting when it was secret and without consequences. The reality of living together in a small apartment with little money and no future. Sure, it's different. I felt no satisfaction, only emptiness. 18 months of clandestine passion, destroyed by 3 months of daily reality. And Alisa? Teodoro hesitated. Are you sure you want to know? Tell me. She closed her firm in April, couldn't pay the debts. She lost the apartment in May. She now lives in a 35 square meter studio in Vallecas, rent 550 euros. She works as an associate lawyer at a small firm. Salary, 1,400 euros a month. 1,400 euros. The same as her mother earned. Two women who once had everything, now struggling with the minimum. The 45,000 euro loan expired on June 4th. She didn't pay, continued Teodoro. I initiated the legal process as you instructed. Her salary will be garnished 30% monthly until the debt is paid off with interest and legal costs. She now owes 53,000 euros. 53,000 euros at 420 euros garnished monthly. It would take her 126 months to pay. 10.5 years of her life paying for 4 months of betrayal. Has she tried to contact you? Asked Teodoro. 13 times since March. I blocked her number, her email, her social media. I don't want to know anything about her. Eliseo, I know it's not my place to say this, but she's your daughter. Someday you might regret this total cutoff. Or I might not. Time will tell. That night, Dolores came to dinner at my apartment. She did it every Wednesday since March. It was our new tradition. She cooked. I brought the wine. We talked about everything except Nuria and Alisa. But that night, she broke the unspoken silence. Eliseo, I saw Nuria last Saturday by accident at the supermarket. I put my fork down. How was she? Destitute. 10 kilograms thinner, hair undyed, gray hairs visible, cheap clothes. She looked aged. She saw me but didn't approach. She just looked at me from afar with pleading eyes. Did you speak to her? No. I turned my back and continued shopping. I know it sounds cruel. She's my daughter. I carried her in my womb. But every time I think about talking to her, I remember what she did to you, what they did to you. You don't have to justify yourself to me, Dolores. I also saw Alisa 2 weeks ago. She came to my house unannounced. She rang the doorbell for 20 minutes. I was inside, but I didn't open. Dolores had tears in her eyes. She wiped one away with her napkin. Do you know what's the most painful, Eliseo? That I don't miss the women they became. I miss the people I thought they were. But maybe those people never really existed. I know. I feel the same way. We finished dinner in silence. Later, while we were washing the dishes together, Dolores asked, Are you happy now? The question floated in the air, heavy, complex. I'm not happy, I admitted finally. But I'm not unhappy either. I'm at peace. And after 26 years of living a lie, peace is enough. Would you go back if you could? Would you change anything? I don't know. If I had discovered the truth earlier, maybe I could have saved something. Or maybe I would have suffered longer. Hypothetical answers are useless. On Sunday, August 10th, I sold the last shared asset, a small wine cellar that Nuria and I had collected over the years. Bottles of Rioja, Ribera del Duero, Priorat, some worth €1,000 each. Total value of the collection, €32,000. By right, 70% was mine, €22,400, but instead of dividing it, I bought Nuria's share for the €9,600 she was entitled to. Now the whole collection was mine, not because I cared about the wine, but because it was the last thread that connected us, and I wanted to cut it. On Friday, August 14th, exactly 6 months after the confrontation, I did something I hadn't done in half a year. I drove to Baden Restaurant. I sat alone at a table in the main dining room. I ordered roasted lamb and red wine. I ate slowly, remembering that night in February. The faces of shock, the screams, the crying, the devastation I orchestrated with surgical precision. Did I regret it? No. Was I proud of it? No, either. I simply did it because I needed to, because 26 years of betrayed trust demanded a proportional response. The waiter recognized me. Sir, are you celebrating something tonight? No, just remembering. I understand. The bill for that dinner. We'll never forget it. It was the most expensive in the history of this restaurant and the most dramatic. I guess I left an impression. More than that, sir. You left a legend. I paid for my dinner and went out into the hot Madrid night. The streets were full of life, young couples laughing, families dining on terraces. The world kept spinning, indifferent to personal tragedies. My phone vibrated. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me do it. Eliseo. It was Elisa's voice, different, more mature, more tired. How did you get this number? It's blocked. I called from a friend's phone. I just want to say something. Just one thing. Then I won't bother you again. Silence. I waited. You were right. About everything. About the consequences, about the choices, about everything. I've spent 6 months in the hell that I created, and now I understand that it wasn't your punishment. It was the result of my actions. I just wanted you to know that. That I finally get it. That's all. I also want to tell you that although you'll probably never forgive me, I have forgiven you for all this, because I deserved it. And I hope that someday, when you're ready, maybe. I don't know. I just hope. She hung up before I could answer. I walked for an hour through Madrid, thinking, processing, feeling. Would I ever forgive Alisa? I didn't know. Would I ever rebuild a relationship with her? Maybe in years, in decades, or never. But that night, under the starry August sky, I realized something. I had won the war. I regained my dignity, my wealth, my truth. But in the process, I lost a whole family, a wife, a daughter, 26 years of history. Justice came at a price, and that price was everything I ever called family. Was it worth it? Ask me in 10 years. For now, I only know that I sleep peacefully every night, and after 26 years of being the naive fool, that tranquility is priceless.